Do you operate more on logic or intuition?
I think it's a mix. I'm definitely very logically driven. Like, I'm somebody who leads with my head 100%. Like, that's where if my head is there, I can get my heart there, basically. Um, and I definitely, like, my default is going through things logically and muddling through issues, but I follow my gut for sure, and I'm somebody who trusts my gut and believes it, so I don't think you can have either or, but I definitely lead more with logic.
And was leaving the Daily Wire more of a decision out of logic or intuition?
Oh, that's a good question. It was both. I think that, I basically said all that I can say about what led to me leaving and everything that transpired. Um, but I think, I'm really, really grateful for what we created, obviously, and I loved doing comment section. I loved building comment section. I think it was just it was a light in my life, and I hope that it was a light in a lot of people's lives, and it obviously made a huge splash. And it was really great for those 3 years, and I think in life you kind of have to know, and this is where it's like logical and kind of gut. You kind of have to know when things have run their course, whether it's a relationship in your personal life or in business or something that you are, creating and putting out in the world. And so I think it was a mixture of both, of kind of logically being like, okay, I think this is it.
What was the moment that you knew that you had to move on?
I don't know if I can pinpoint. There was not a specific thing or a moment, but it was last summer. It was just, I felt like things had changed in my life and what I wanted had changed. And I looked forward into what I saw as my future and did a lot of, I think, digging and hard conversations with family and friends and Alex about what I was excited about in my life and who I wanted to work with and the autonomy that I wanted to have. It was a huge thing, having autonomy. And it was kind of like just basically a slow burn, but last spring really started the thought in my head of basically just like, what's next? And what do I need to put into play in order to build the life that I see for myself, that Alex and I see for each other, and that required taking a pretty big leap.
Was there anything that they could have done to have kept you?
Everybody has their
number.
I wouldn't even say
Right, Jack?
number. I wouldn't even say number. I'd say,
Terms.
Yeah.
Okay.
But truly, there is I think I'm grateful that we walked away we separated when we did. I think there was a natural ending there, and a lot has changed at the company recently, and they've undergone a lot of executive changes. And I really hope for the best, especially because it's like, I think people see me and they think that there's it was the same thing kind of happened when Candace left, when everybody was like, oh, there's this big, and hers was obviously a lot more volatile than mine, and there's a lot that's has become more public and has played out publicly. But, they think that like she was not friends with me, Michael, or Matt anymore, and that we never associated with her. It's like, it's hard. Business relationships end and you move on and you start new things, but you still care about the people that are there. It's like Matt and his wife, Alyssa, they're great friends. Alyssa's a really wonderful friend of mine. Michael Knowles is still an incredible mentor of mine and somebody I look to. Ben is wonderful. Ben and I have never had a bad interaction. He was a very, very generous mentor while I was there. So I will never look at, what they're doing and go, I left, to hell with you, whatever it is. It's like, no, I hope that what they're doing really works, and for the sake of the people that I love there. I hope, Matt and Michael keep producing amazing things, and I love their show. So I think it's, people see one thing and then there's another thing that happens, off screen and offline. So yeah, I wish the best, but I think it was a natural ending at the right time.
What was the most difficult part of branching out on your own?
Not knowing what I didn't know, of just having to branch into something completely independently when I had a kind of a company. I mean, not kind of a company, I had a company behind me. And there's sort of some misconceptions because some people thought that I was totally produced. And they also think this about like Matt and Michael too, of like they come in and their show is written for them and they sit down and they get their hair and makeup done and they're just like a mouthpiece. But all of us, like, we all researched our own shows. We would have people that would, help us pull a story or whatever and would be running the cameras. But I wrote every single episode of the show that I did, and I put the stories together. I drove the creation of it, as Michael did, as Matt did, as Ben does. Ben writes his own show every single morning. His like 4 hours of airtime, whether he's doing radio or whatever, he does all of that. He does the mental load. And so that was not hard. So I think a lot of people, there was like, oh, is Brett not going to be as like smart now that she doesn't have like a team of Daily Wire writers writing for her? I was like, okay, well that was actually one thing that kind of got to my head of like, oh my God, are people going to like see me differently or whatever? But it was always me. So if they liked me, they were going to hopefully still like me then when I left. But it was mainly the technical side of things. Like they had hired the editors and they managed my advertising, and I was a W-2 employee. So I never had to worry about 1099s or having business expenses. Like my taxes were all super easy, that kind of thing. Figuring out how to hire people, that sort of thing. Do I want to sell my ads internally? How do I want, now that I have complete control over how I advertise on the show, how do I want to do that? Is there a more innovative way that I could do that? Now financially, do I need to do 10 shows a week, or am I happy doing 2?
So as far as how your business works now, how is the income generated? Like, how does it work? What's your team like?
So the majority of it comes from advertising, whether that is like programmatic ads on YouTube or the sponsors that we bring on, which I'm very, very particular about how we do advertising. And we have created the model internally, and so we manage it internally, which is what I wanted to do, at least to start out with the show, because I, for the last 3 years had somebody else managing everything and selling the ads and, having the direct relationship with the advertisers. And I wanted to change that, at least as I was starting, because I just had no idea how it worked. And I wanted to have something that worked for me and my values and my audience and the show and where I wanted it to go. The majority comes from our like incredible advertisers, and every single advertiser that I work with, like, we know personally. We have a personal relationship with their executive team. These are brands that I actually use in my life. Like I don't take on advertisers that I can't fully stand behind, because I think everybody online is trying to sell you something. That's how creators make money. Like you will always have programmatic ads. You'll be selling a course or a subscription or whatever it is. And I want to make sure that, again, going back to this idea that everything is really intentional, I want to make sure that if I'm bringing somebody onto the show, then I'm giving them an endorsement that I can 100% stand behind it, that I love the people, that I love the message of the company, that I love the product. And those are personal relationships as well as professional. So the majority of it is advertising. And then I make a small portion from a subscription platform that I have called Cooper Confidential, where I do those advice videos and I have a more personalized newsletter and people can watch ad-free episodes. But by far the most significant is advertising.
And then how many people are on your team? Like, what does it look like?
Let me count. I have Alex, who works on my ad sales, and we're expanding that team possibly soon. But right now, it's literally just been him creating the entire program. And then I have a manager. I have a producer who's a technical producer, and I've basically just been producing everything myself in terms of, creating the show and branding stuff. And then I have a manager, and we just brought on a more creative producer to hopefully just help grow and innovate and drive everything that we're doing from the subscription model to the show. Just because I think I need some creative support in that regard, just so I can I think it's really hard when your brand is you, and it's hard to like step outside of that and think of like driving the creative forward. So I'm bringing her in, and she's somebody that I've worked with before. And then we have someone who I've also worked with previously who manages all my posting. So he does all the SEO, gets the thumbnails made, helps with titling. I end up picking the titles, but is like, hey, here's the direction. He puts the, the descriptions together, make sure it gets uploaded to all the correct RSS feeds. That's the team. And then I have a publicist and an attorney. And they're all like, it's pretty lean.
Yeah.
But the best part is it's like, it's growing, but I'm very intentional with how it grows. And it's all people that like I genuinely love and who I implicitly trust. Because again, very complicated when it's like, you're the brand, and I'm very careful about how how I represent myself publicly and the messages that I put out in the world. And I want to make sure that whoever I bring on has my best interests at heart and has the brand's best interests at heart, which I think is hard to find. I feel very, very fortunate. So they're all just really, really incredibly talented, but also just wonderful, wonderful people who I trust. And that was super important to me.